So why are avoidants so selfish in relationships? If you've been in a relationship with an avoidant, you'll notice it feels like this person never considers you. They're never considering your feelings. They're never considering your needs. It's always about them. They're always prioritizing whatever it is that they want over you and your feelings. Canceling plans last minute, prioritizing work, friends, hobbies. Everything seems to be prioritized over you. And it seems like your feelings just are never considered at all. And when you push to have your feelings and your needs addressed and met, well, they usually just pull away or even get defensive. A dismissive avoidant that is not working on themselves lacks the capacity to consider the needs and the feelings of their partner. They have programming from childhood to become solely focused on themselves. Now, of course, they can change this capacity. They can grow their capacity. It requires work and effort. But when they're not self-aware, when they're not working on themselves, the only person that they can really consider is themselves. This is because they were on the receiving end of consistent childhood emotional neglect. Growing up in households where you don't talk about feelings and their own feelings were rejected and dismissed, they weren't able to express themselves. But they often had parents or caretakers that thrust them into adult-like roles at a young age when they weren't really mature and ready for it. Often having to take care of themselves, take care of their own needs because their parents weren't there to do it for them. Or sometimes having to take care of a sibling or something like that in a way that they weren't really ready to. So what happens is it gives them a sense of hyper independence because they learn that the only person that they can rely on is themselves. Nobody else considered them growing up, so they had to focus on themselves where their needs would never be met. The human mind learns in repetition. The more you repeat anything, the more automatic it becomes. So a lifetime of repeating, focusing on themselves ingrains it into their head deeper, 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 and deeper. So now, as an adult, if they haven't done any work on this, they're still self-focused, prioritizing what they perceive their needs to be. It's not that they're intentionally saying, I don't care about my partner. They're just not considering their partner. The thought process of how do I show up for this person? How do my actions impact them? It does not go through their head. It just is all about them, and that's because of that neglect that they experienced. This is also a person with deep insecurities because of that neglect. They personalize that neglect, growing up to feel defective and unlovable, and it creates a lot of anxiety in relationships, especially when things are getting close. That emotional closeness feels so unsafe to them. So, by prioritizing themselves over their partner, it also helps create emotional distance between themselves and their partner, and emotional distance is where they feel safe. The subconscious fear is if I lower my walls and I let my partner in and I really let them into my heart, my partner is going to figure out that I'm unlovable. They're going to figure out that I'm defective and they're going to reject and abandon me. That's why closeness feels unsafe. That's that defectiveness wound that stems from that emotional neglect as a child. Emotional distance feels safe because if they have their partner at an emotional arm's length, well, now they don't risk exposure of being defective and unlovable, and they can protect themselves from what they perceive to be inevitable abandonment. So by constantly prioritizing themselves over their partner, it helps sever intimacy, emotional intimacy, because it's truly hard to build emotional intimacy with somebody that you're constantly putting low on the priority list, when you're constantly neglecting this person's needs and feelings. It is a self-defense mechanism, a maladaptive one, because it doesn't actually help them, it doesn't help their partner, but it's how they've learned to keep themselves safe by creating that emotional distance. So they really have learned to just focus on themselves, but due to their attachment wounds, they've also learned strategies to actually create distance to feel safe. It's all about soothing their own anxieties because that closeness, it really gives them a ton of anxiety. So what do? They consider what their own needs are to soothe their own anxiety, create distance, prioritize other things over their partner, soothes the anxiety, and takes care of their needs. But during this process, no, they're not considering, how does it impact my partner when I don't respond to their text in 2 days? Or how does it feel to them when I constantly cancel plans? How does it feel to them when I just shut down and get quiet whenever they want to talk about feelings and love? Or how does it feel to them when I just push off commitment endlessly? They're not considering that. They're not considering the needs of their partner. So if you're in a relationship with an avoidant, or if you weren't, and they constantly prioritize everything over you, it's not because you did anything wrong. It's because they're trying to keep themselves safe by creating emotional distance. And this is a person, if they're not working on themselves, that doesn't even truly have the capacity to consider your needs or your feelings. It's inherently all about them. And due to that programming, they really do approach a relationship with a what's in it for me attitude. How does this person make me feel? What do I get out of the relationship? Me, me, me. The thought process of how do I show up for the other person just isn't there. So if you're beating yourself up saying, oh, I just wasn't good enough, I wasn't worth it, if I was better, if I was good enough, they would have put in the effort, they would have kept me around, they wouldn't have pushed me away. That has nothing to do with it. The more special you are, the more it intimidates them, and the more it pokes at their attachment wounds, and the more distance they feel compelled to create. Because if you're truly special and they let you in and you reject them, it's going to be devastating to them. So it feels unsafe. Actually, the better of a partner you are, the more loving and consistent you are, the more it's going to trigger those attachment wounds. So no, it's not anything you did wrong. It's this person, their choices, their insecurities, their attachment wounds. Don't blame yourself for it. It is no reflection on your worth whatsoever.